Hey Shaista, hi.
I
Yeah, so great to know that you scored 760. So just take us through what exactly, you know, happened in your preparation, what challenges you faced, and which were your areas that you really needed time on. Just give us some idea, please.
sure, sir. So unlike other engineering students, my quant was also weak. So it's not just that I had to work on my verbal, I also had to work on my quant. And particularly in verbal, my SC accuracy was very, very bad. And my reading speed in RC was pathetic. Like when I started off, I couldn't, even after like practicing for some time, I was not able to finish my paper at all, right? I would end up like spending a lot of extra time rereading the passage, all of that. So yeah, so and towards the end of it, like I could actually finish my paper 5 minutes earlier. So yes, like I just noticed that you were teaching them the octave method, and if you really follow octave properly, you can actually improve your RC and end up like spending much less time because you're reading the passage in a very organized manner.
Right.
So yeah, for RC, I think the major thing that helped me was using octave really really well so that I could read the passage in a very very structured manner in the first approach itself. Apart from that, I also did a lot of LSAT questions.
Right,
um,
right.
yeah, and this is something that sir had suggested for anybody whose reading speed was not very good. Sir had suggested that we, try to solve some of the LSAT passages because they are longer. So if I had some issues with concentration, I couldn't just sit in one place for a very long time. Or like even while reading the passage, midway through the passage, I would just, lose my focus. So solving the LSAT passages towards the end after I'd done all the basic checks,
Mhm.
that really, really helped a lot. And thank you, sir, for suggesting that. Uh,
All right. And how did you go about SC? And then you didn't talk about CR. And how did you go about quant? So just tell and then your exam experience as well after this. Yeah.
sure, sir. So for CR, again, LSAT, I solved the logical sections of the
Right.
papers, and that helped a lot because I remember if there were questions about two-person argument, or
Mhm.
if even some of the questions where you had to talk about parallel reasoning, I would take very very long for those questions because I'd get very confused. Sometimes those
Mm.
you get entangled, right? So I was not able to build the map initially, but as in when I started doing LSAT questions after 3 to 4 papers, I noticed that my accuracy automatically improved. But one of the things that I would like really, really like to point out is that more than quantity, it's all about quality. So I would spend even like I would probably spend 1 hour doing the paper, and I would spend 1.5 hours actually analyzing the paper. So I would go
Mhm.
through each and every question. Even if I got the question right, I'd still go through it, go through the explanation because sometimes. You find better approaches, you find easier ways to solve questions in the approaches that are given, right? So yeah, so I would spend a lot more time analyzing my paper or the questions that I was doing than
Mhm.
actually doing the
So
questions.
RC it was Octave and then a lot of practice from GMAT material obviously, but LSAT as well. And
Yeah,
CR, was there any technique issue or you feel that it was just practice for you? Let me just tick
it was
each
the
box.
practice.
All
I
right.
remember like in couple of sessions that I'd attended with you, you would say that you reach that breaking point after solving.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's exactly what happened. So initially I had that barrier, but after solving like 200 questions, maybe I reached a point where it started coming naturally. So yes, I think it's definitely the practice, and as you mentioned, you have to like keep.
And what was your struggle with sentence correction? Could you be a bit more elaborate?
Yeah, so I mean, this is something that I did wrong, and I would like hope that every one of you actually pay a lot of attention to the reading material and the order in which you have to go through the material, right? So I had missed out a mail in which you'd sent out the basic videos,
Hmm.
right? So there were three basic primer
Hmm.
videos for SC. I had missed that out completely initially, and
Hmm.
I was doing it the other way around. I had started solving the question first, and I had started it with a timer,
Right.
so I could not build depth. I was just focusing
Hmm.
on just getting the questions right, and I don't know, somehow I was trying to rush through it because
Hmm.
and initially because I was trying to rush through it, I did not really have the depth of understanding. But then this one time I decided that like if it's not going above 75%, I have to do something about it. So I reached out to someone, like a friend of mine who's also at top, and I asked her like how she was preparing, and she asked me, dude, did you go through these videos? They are very helpful. I don't know, like after that my accuracy improved by like I reached 90% accuracy, and I got a little confused. So I went through my mails, I checked, and I found those videos. So I went through those videos, and I took my time. Like I took about 1.5 weeks to go through those videos slowly. I went through them over and over till I was very, very confident, and I had like my notes written of the approach.
Right.
And one thing that I remember that you mentioned in the video was that for the first 100 questions, you have to write why you got those wrong.
Yeah.
That's what I did. And after that, suddenly, after doing all of that, I hit an accuracy of 90%. So the habit that I had of, listening to my intuition, I had to like wash that off, and doing the first 100 question with explanation actually helped me get
All
that.
right. Talk about a little bit about your quant as well, and then the exam experience will take up, please.
For quant, sir, I think like majorly your handouts are so good. I did those handouts like 3 times. So if I finish them, it takes about a week or so to finish them. So at the end of every month, I'd make sure that I'd go through them again, because I have this. I forget approaches, right? Like if your approaches are much simpler than what I do. Like I have this brute force mechanism method which takes very, very long, and your approaches are, they're very easy. And I also had this tendency of missing out words like integer or negative or positive, something of that sort. So that's where I had issues. And the volume of the preparation and going back to those handouts every few weeks, make sure that like concepts are cemented and they stay that way, that helped. And I would ensure that I use like, I think I've finished for quant, I've finished the 700 to 800 material. So I would just like take 30-40 questions from that and set my timer up and practice it. Like
Super. And what was the exam like? Were there any surprises? And you said you finished verbal 5 minutes earlier. Trust me,
Yes.
it's a commendable achievement because it doesn't happen normally.
So
Verbal people always struggle with the timing. So yeah, please tell.
So yeah, I mean, like initially, verbal was such a challenge for me. I remember that when I started my mock test, right, I would never like I would not be able to finish the paper. For RC, I'd just get entangled in some of the questions, right. But LSAT was something that really helped me build my speed. For the exam, I think, and this is something that towards the end, after everybody has done their course, they should focus on, which is that like they should learn to manage their time well, right? So I would say that there were no surprises in verbal as such. All the questions were very similar to what we do in the coursework. So I'd become very familiar with the questions. In fact, like for CR, I'd become so familiar that while I was reading the question stem, I would start predicting the answer myself. Like I would know what the answer would look like.
Right.
So that helps.
And did you believe this time you definitely hit a 760? Like, was that on the cards according to you when you were prepared?
I remember, so my exam was at 3, and at 5 a.m. I was trying to reschedule my exam. I was so nervous. I was nervous, so I don't know, somehow I could not sleep. I was not able to fall asleep in the night, and by the time it was 5 a.m. and I was not able to sleep at all. So I thought that like now this is going to be a disaster because I haven't slept, so I might not be able to concentrate. So let me try to reschedule. But when I checked on the website, I realized that you can't reschedule if it's already like within the 7 days. So then I was like, okay, maybe I'll just go give this attempt, and probably after the cool off, I'll give it again, because there was no choice. I mean, you just had to skip the exam.
I got it. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Eventually, when I went there, like I met the invigilator. He was also like, "Why do you look so sad?" I'm like, I have already lost this battle. Then he cheered me up. He said, like, why don't you just sit down, take some water, calm yourself down. And yes, like 10 minutes before the exam, I just calmed myself down, took a deep breath, told myself that it's okay. It's I'll just go and give it my best shot, and whatever happens, there's always a cool off, and I can probably give it again. But because like you have to really believe in your practice, because the practice was so good. And I would not recommend that, like not do not give exam half asleep. but somehow for me, because the practice was
Understandable, obviously.
it worked out.
And during your prep, 3 or 4 times, mainly you went through those very low moments, very low phases. So
Yes,
take us through those. And does you really ask, does stress even ever help? Like stressing. So what was that about? Just
that's
take us the
not.
last thing I'll ask you. I think we've really taken a lot of your time as well already. So, but take us through this thing. You at least had 3 or 4 major moments of almost, giving up or complete depression or like whatever. So just take us through this, please.
Yeah. So yes, I did have those low points where, because I mean, I was struggling with quant as well, not just verbal. So sometimes it would get overwhelming, and I'd feel that, like no matter what I do, I'll not be able to do this. And I had reached out to sir a couple of times in those low moments. But he kept pushing, right? He kept saying that, like, if you just keep practicing, you'll get through. So, and again, like, I used to attend all the mega motivation sessions, all the success stories, because that kept me motivated. Like when you see your peers, some of my college seniors were also on the some of these sessions. So when you look at them, you get inspired. I used to get really motivated through those sessions. I used to feel that, like, if these guys could do it, I'll just have to keep pushing myself till I get there. I remember there was this one point where I had developed some health complications for a couple of months, and I was sort of, semi bedridden. Like I could just work make sure that my office work was done, and then I just like sleep through most of the rest of the day. So that was when I started watching Sir's Know the World videos. And that was life changing. Like there are things that Sir talked about. They will, remain a part of my thought process, how I approach my life in general. They really changed my perspective of life. Like I became a lot more confident. And one of the most important things that, like, I learned from Know the World session was how to manage your time. And once you actually master that, right, suddenly you see that there's so much more time in life. Like initially, I'd find it very difficult to even find 1 hour or 1.5 hours to study. But after, using Sir's approach, I started finding like 3 to 4 hours to study every day. And that's it. Like it was all about that. It was all about, giving those 3 to 4 hours every day consistently for about 3 months. That's all that it takes. But you have to get to a point where you have to build that. So yeah.
Superb to know, Shaista. So great. And I'll really carry on with the session. Thanks for your presence and all the way best with your application. 760 is awesome. Now the GMAT is out of the way and you can relax completely on that front. Right. All
So
right.
much.
So we'll carry on with the session. Thank you for your presence. Bye-bye. Bye.